Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and today I'm coming to you guys with a really interesting keyboard video because some of you guys actually probably already knew about this. I did a Nuphy Air75 V3 recently, so we have to thank Nuphy again. They sent me out the Node75. Now the Node75 has a high profile version and a low profile version. I actually got the low profile one, and we're gonna have to see how is this. And you know what's really going to be awesome about this video? I actually have every single switch that's available for Nuphy low profile keyboards. So we're going to actually go through every single one in this one with the Node75 and hopefully help you guys to see what's the best. Please make sure to like and subscribe. You can always come check out the Discord channel where you can ask me questions and I'll be able to respond much quicker and even have the community, answer some questions there as well. Now, let's go straight into the unboxing. Now let's start off with the unboxing of the Nuphy Node75 low profile version. Now I got the low profile version of the Node75 because honestly I thought that this specific series really made sense as a low profile keyboard. So we have to thank Nuphy of course for sending it out, especially like right after they had sent me out the Air75 V3 to test out. Now let's open the box and take a look. So one thing I noticed already was the theme of the box and the packaging is very clean and I would say kind of goes with the whole theme of the Node75 and the looks. Now you do get a cable with it, you get some extra keycaps and a switch puller keycap puller. One thing you are missing in terms of this is going to be the extra switches. So I do wish they provided extra switches. I think that's something that really every single keyboard brand should be doing. So kind of unfortunate it wasn't there. Another thing I saw that was missing is going to be the waifu. It seems like Nuphy's walking away from the waifus, which honestly I'm kind of disappointed because it was really cool actually. Now overall taking a look, it does look pretty clean, but it is a fully plastic board. Now is a fully ABS like keyboard bad? No, sometimes if you have a really good ABS done, the board can be quite nice. So one thing I noticed is it is kind of feeling a little bit on the weaker side compared to the 75 V3, but let's weigh it here, 660 grams, and let's hear a sound test. So now it's time to do a teardown. We're gonna do a couple angles for you guys. So I kind of want to give you guys like a look in terms of different ways that you can look at this. Now we took off some keycaps and we noticed that this is not a flex cut plate. It is a PC plate, and overall kind of surprised that it's not flex cut because a lot of times you find these kind of boards as a flex cut. Now I put the pandas in there, but overall the sound tests I will be doing later with like every single switch that you can possibly get for the Nuphy. Now looking at the stabilizers, you can see right there that there's a ton of lube. So the Nuphy's in general are really well lubed. I would say almost to the point where it's too much lube, but you don't really get the tinking sound. So that's really great for stabilizers because no one really wants a ticking stabilizer. Now, next thing we're gonna have to do is take a look and open up this board. And one thing I think for the Node75 is you can actually open it up compared to like say the Air75. You will see right there, there's two screws. So we're going to remove the two screws first. You do need like a star-shaped screw, and it's going to be in like the medium size range. Then we're going to use the tool to actually, unlock the specific latches that are going to be keeping the two bottom case and the top case together. And as you can see from the side as well, I'm actually putting it into where sections that I think is a little bit on the looser side where I can actually fit in my tool. And then we're going to pry it open and then be able to get everything off. So this one felt quite easy to open up compared to say all the other Nuphy boards that I've worked with. Very easy to do. Of course, you saw right there, that's where the sensor is in terms of like the volume control where you use the touch. So you can see that right in the top right. And we're going to remove some of the cables now. So remove the actual ribbon cables just so we can actually pull it out and take a look. Now you do have to be careful though, because the section where it's connected to the PCB for the sensor is going to be on the sensitive side, and it's still connected, and we can't really take it out without, well, we can take it out, but I just wanted to be careful with it and keep it together. Now, it is not a flex cut on terms of the PCB, as you guys would have saw. And in terms of the thickness of the PCB itself, I was trying to find a good section to really take a look. So the plate is looking like it's going to be a around 0.7 millimeters to about 0.8 millimeters PC plate. And then the PCB, we're also looking at close to about a 0.8 millimeter thickness. So as you can see here, I'm like really trying to take a look. So like the PCB and the plate itself, like trying to figure out, is it 1.0 millimeters or not? So I'm getting the 0.8 millimeters in terms of the measurements for both sides. Now this is gasket mounted, as you can see right there. So it has like the socks that are put on the sides, and then it goes onto the top case where you'll see it actually fitting right in, and then gasket mounted together, so you can actually have a little bit of the dampening with that specific silicone. And then also has a silicone bottom, so it's a silicone foam to really fill up the bottom side, and you get a 3000 mAh battery. So it's not the biggest one, it's kind of on the smaller side for the battery, and compared to like the Air series, it's going to be a much smaller battery. I will go over later exactly how many days did I get out of this one with the battery. So we finished with the unboxing and the sound test with all the different switches. And what are my thoughts on terms of the Node75 so far? Well, one of the things that I felt is that the build quality does not feel as good as the Air75 V3. To be fair, this is a much cheaper board compared to the 75 V3. I think the aluminum, like how they do it, and the bottom as well, is actually a lot nicer for the Air75 and like that series compared to the Node. It is cool that it has like the extra features, you know, with the little touch over here. I think it's still, how should I say it, more of a kind of like a gimmick in terms of that feature compared to, say, having like the volume knob. I think it's a cool thing though. It's a really interesting thing that they're trying to do, especially like I heard with the Nuphy where they had that as well in terms of like the side where you have the touch. I think with this board, it's definitely cheaper than what Nuphy did. And do I feel like the build quality of this one is like worse than, say, like the Nuphy Lite, which is a low profile board that was also fully plastic? Yeah, I think in general the Nuphy board is a better quality compared to the Flow Lite. The Flow Lite felt quite thin in like most of the parts of the plastic, and like it would break kind of easily overall. This one, I felt like it has a little bit more of that durability to it, and it's a little bit thicker too in general. It's not as thin either, actually, in terms of carrying it. It does sound deeper though. It sounds deeper than the, you know, Air75 V3, and I personally think the Pandas is probably my favorite switch out of all of them. So if you're looking at different switches for the Nuphy and you're considering like what low profile would be the best, I personally think the Pandas is actually the best one out of all of them, for a tactile feel, has a little bit of that deep sound still, and provides a nice like typing feel to it. The regular tactiles is a little bit on the heavier side, so if you like a heavier tactile, it's going to be the choice you want. And then you have the linears, which is the red. Honestly, the Gateron Huron switch is kind of similar in terms of the sound like the reds. I think typing feels a little bit better and smoother than the reds are, but sound wise it's almost like quite similar to each other. And out of all of them, the Pandas kind of feel the most different. Of course, the Blush Nano is going to be the silent switch, which is really nice. It does provide a small like deep sound to it, but it is supposed to be a silent switch. Overall, I really did appreciate the Pandas the most. I think that if you can ever get your hands on the Pandas, you should definitely go and grab them. Let's go into really taking out the in-depth look of this, and of course checking out the new Nuphy IO V2 and seeing this compared to a lot of the different low profiles that I've tried. So let's go right into that. So we just came back from a bunch of sound tests, and hopefully you guys can see from there which ones you should grab. As you can hear with the plastic, it's a quite thick ABS and it's not too flimsy. So one thing I noticed is that it's actually not super flimsy and you don't get a lot of that flexing with the case. So that's something that's really good. A lot of times with a lot of these plastic boards, sometimes you feel like it flexes too much to the point where, you know, it could possibly break. This one has a little bit of that thickness where it seems like it's going to be quite sturdy in terms of the case itself. And I'm going to be honest with you, I actually did drop it once and it was completely fine, though a bunch of keycaps did fly off. In terms of the thickness of the keyboard, so we're looking at 3.7 millimeters for the front, and in terms of the backside, we're looking at 22.9 millimeters. This is not really a thin keyboard. So even though it's a low profile keyboard, I would say that it feels quite thick comparatively to the Air75. And one thing you'll notice with this USB dongle port is there's actually a little I would say like a spring in there that will actually push out the USB dongle. So just keep in mind that when you're pulling it out, it possibly could fly off. So be careful with that. Now, in terms of the actual angles, the feet that they provided, you do get two different versions. So you can get a bit of a higher angle compared to, say, the Air series, which has the one. I think that's pretty nice. The touch sensor over there on the top is quite accurate. It actually will work quite well, which we'll show you a little bit later. And overall, I have to admit that there's no flex at all in terms of this board. So even when you're pressing down, there's like no flex with this keyboard. And you can really see that because with the camera movements there, it's actually more like the desk moving. Now, the next thing I want to show you guys is how loud is the board. So right now, this is with the Panda switches inside of the board itself. And it's because I love the Pandas. So it goes up to about 71 decibels. If you are in an office space, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not that loud like this board. Even with any of the switches, you won't really have it being too loud. So the loudest hit was like 71, but on average, you're still looking at around like the 62, 64 area. So this is actually going to be a great board to take to work. If you get the Blush Nano switches, it's going to be like really quiet where no one's going to be affected at all by that. So overall, I would say if this is something that you want to use for work, carry it to work, you know, bring it to an office space, it would work well and it won't be a big bother to most of the people around you. Unless like you're very tight in its space and it's incredibly quiet where there's no fan noises, no people talking at all. I really think though that this color scheme is not the nicest color. So the Node75, it's hard to really see on camera because of like the lighting and how the camera will catch the colors. It's not a beige-ish color. I would say it's like a dark beige. So yes, it is a beige, but it's a very dark beige, getting really close to like the sand color. So this isn't going to be a white keyboard at all. You really are going to be looking at more of a sand colored, dark beige keyboard for the white version. I think the gray version, like the black one, looks really nice in terms of the pictures, but yes, this one's not going to be fully white. Keep in mind that it is a bit dark, not a bit darker, a lot darker. It is nice though, you do get like the switches on the top for changing to wireless, wired, and turning to macro windows. Only thing though is that I do wish that you didn't have to actually move it to wired to change to wired, instead just use the function keys. I think they only needed one switch to turn it on. That would have been good. Now in terms of the backlighting, you can see here it's decently bright. I think in general the Pandas aren't the greatest in terms of the brightness, but overall like the browns and the reds are going to be on the brighter side. So is the Gateron Huron, and it is quite bright of a switch. It is going to be a more bluish color in general. Notice that with their lighting, even though I changed it to white, it was coming off a little bit more blue. So I'm thinking that in terms of how they do the backlighting, for this keyboard, you're not going to get that full specific like white. Now, another thing to note is that on the top left, you do have like a lighting indicator, which will show you which kind of connection you are, and even the battery life of the keyboard. Now, this is going to be my MacBook Air, and with the MacBook Air, I want to show you guys kind of how big it can be, because all the images are always with like MacBook Pros, and you have like the speakers on the side, which really, you know, shows like a keyboard not taking up too much space. This is 75% keyboard, so the sides are going to be longer, and with my Air, it actually is hitting a key a lot. That's something I noticed with this one, is that every time I was trying to put it on top of the keys, it actually was triggering keys. I think due to like the feet and how like the bumpers are. So if you are someone who wanted to actually use a Nuphy and like just put it right on top of the keyboard, you have to be careful because it's really going to keep hitting something. And like I kept accidentally hitting like the power button and I kept pressing like volume key. Pretty much it kept affecting something. Now, taking a look here, you see with like the touch, you see with the Mac mode and everything, it's working really well, right? You can change the volume with it, but that's kind of it. And I don't know if in the future they'll add like some other features that you can do with this, so possibly like modify it. I think that'd be really cool if they did, because otherwise it kind of seems cool, but is it really necessary? I don't know. Now, going into comparing with the Air75 V3 in terms of thickness, yes, the Air75 V3 just feels slightly thinner. Not like a ton thinner, but definitely still slightly thinner comparatively to the Node75 low profile version. And you can even see the measurements, like 12.8 millimeters for the Air75 V3 front, and then with the Node75, it actually coming out to 14 millimeters. So you get like a millimeter more in terms of the thickness comparing the two boards. This means, yes, the Node75 is going to be slightly thicker in terms of carrying it around in your backpack and such. Does that mean it's too thick? No, I don't think it's too thick to be a portable keyboard, but when you are dealing with something like a low profile and you want it really, really thin, this is not going to be that kind of super thin compared to like a low free. Now going into the website to take a look at the pricing. So the Node75 is priced really correct, I think. Right, you have the low profile and high profile both at $99.95, so 100 USD. You have three different colors: pink, gray, and lunar white, which lunar white makes sense. It really is kind of like a moon white, you know, how like beige dark colored it is and more like a sand. I would say that they priced it pretty correctly comparatively to say a lot of the other competitors out there, and even comparing with the Air75 V3, it is going to be a lot cheaper comparatively, and it makes sense. Now, this is 1,000 hours is what they said. When I had the lighting on completely to the max, the amount of battery life I actually was getting with this was about 4.5 days, and that's about 8 hours usage each day for work. So 8 hours of 4.5 days. It's dies really quick. And even Nuphy knows that. They're saying that you actually should turn off the backlighting completely if you want to have a longer battery life, which makes sense, right? It's going to use up more battery if you have the lighting on. I think even with the lights off though, you probably can get maybe a week in total. So like a full week, full work days or 5 days, 5 work days, maybe a week and a half in terms of working days. So if you go, 1 week without charging it and then half of a week without charging it, that's the kind of battery life you're going to be looking at with the Node75. I think, does that mean that it's bad? No, but I do kind of wish the battery life lasted a little bit longer. And you can even see that with like the MacBook, right? So it doesn't cover any keys and it actually works there. Yeah, for the MacBook Airs, it doesn't really work well, which is unfortunate. Now, this is going to be their newest thing that they're doing for the customization of the board. You can do 3D printing and add these modules in terms of like top of the board around to different areas, and I think that's very creative. It's a very interesting thing. It's like almost like playing Lego in a way, and I think it's cool, but I don't know if a lot of people are going to do it. Not a lot of people are going to have access to 3D printing, and I mean, you can go to a shop and print these things, but it will cost some money. So if you are interested in kind of building up your board to be like that, definitely it's going to be an interesting for yourself. Now, as you can see, right, with everything information here, like the ANSI profile and the N key rollover, having different backlighting modes with the ABS case, and overall with the 3000 milliamp hour battery, it's okay. And the 3000 milliamp hour battery is still quite decent when you consider how thin this board is and how small it is. Now, this is their newest Nuphy IO version 2, so it's not using the version 1 anymore. They've actually updated it with a version 2, and I actually really like it. In general, Nuphy softwares are quite well done. They did a great job of making a really nice UI. You can actually move like the tool on the right around. I really appreciate what they did with this, and it looks super clean and easy to use. This is a key thing that I wish a lot of brands would do if they are building their own software, is kind of go about it like this. Make it simple, make everything visible, make it very easy to use, and figure out where I need to go for certain things, and just make it so that customers want to use it, right? I've seen softwares out there where like I don't want to touch it ever again. So this is something really cool. And also they have advanced functions here, so you can do like toggle key SOCD by setting it up for this board, which is really interesting. That it's a mechanical board, but they set it up so like I guess in a way it's a macro that's going to be doing it for you, and definitely a cool thing that Nuphy has done to really differentiate themselves compared to a lot of other boards out there, because that's not a feature that mechanical boards actually have. Now, this is going to be the keyboard inspector. We have it plugged in as wired right now, and we're getting 1000 hertz. This is going to be enough for gaming. Of course, it's not going to be like your 8K gaming keyboards out there. To be fair, 8K isn't like the most necessary thing to be a good gamer. It's helpful and it can be helpful in certain situations, but it's not going to be like the almighty, I need 8K to be a diamond or like even higher, like for example in Valorant, like being like a radiant. It's not super necessary. People have done it without 8K before. It's a nice thing to have, but definitely not necessary. And the Node75 worked well for gaming. Even with a USB dongle, you still get 1000 hertz, so you can use it wirelessly. But of course, let me give you a sound test with the different boards that I've tried that are low profile. So hopefully the sound test helped you guys to kind of compare the different boards. My apologies that the decibels are going to be different. It's just I don't have those boards anymore, and those are the recordings that I had previously. The idea is just to kind of get a sound profile idea, not in terms of like the loudness. Now, as you can see here, the Air75 V3 is $140. The Flow Lite 84 is at $100, right? Pretty much same price, a little bit off, like maybe by $1. The MQ80 is another really nice one. It's full aluminum, but it's going to be on the much pricier range. And to be fair, it makes sense because of the build quality and the materials that go into building it. I personally really love the Air75 V3. I have to admit that this is probably my favorite low profile board because of, one, the battery life is really great. Two, it's thinner to carry and it just feels much sturdier in terms of like how it works. And I also like the price, right? Considering like many different aspects for like the price, the sound, the switches that are available, at battery life and usage of it, the Air75 V3 really stood out to be like the right point. The Flow Lite is a very, very thin board. I would say out of all the low profiles that I've tried, it's going to be the thinnest of all of them. It is a nice board, but it's going to have a small battery, like much smaller than Node75 at 2000 milliamps, while the Node75 is 3000. And overall, I think the build quality of the Lite was not as good, right, compared to the Node75. It felt less sturdy, it's much more flexible, and it's decent. I like the sound of it, it works well, but for sure has also more switches available. The only thing is I feel like it is kind of on the flimsier side, and the software is really, really bad, like very bad. The Node75, what it has for it is going to be, yes, it's thicker, but it has a nice sound to it, has a decent amount of switches available, battery life decent, and probably better with the lights off, and overall pricing is going to be right around the light range. Now, if you do want to spend the extra like $40, I think the 75 V3 is a good choice. If you really want to go in the high luxury range, the IQNX is going to be a really good choice as well. Though I do hope that they fix their stabilizers and the plate in general. that's the one thing that really keeps me from saying that the MQ80 is like the perfect low profile board. It's just because of the plate and stabilizers, which they say they're fixing and they fixed, but I need to have it in my hands to say that yes, they did. Overall though, the best switch in terms of the Nuphy ones is going to be the Pandas. If you ever get the opportunity to get these, I would highly recommend them because they feel amazing to type on and they sound really great too. Go check them out. I'll have the link in the description. I really do hope this video helps you guys to see, is the Node75 a keyboard that you should grab, because right now it's going to be doing the like pre-sale pricing and they have like a little bit of that discount codes available out there. You can go check it out, or you can use my code Mikey and of course get like the discount available with that one and help support this channel, if only if the discount that you get from me is higher. If the discount with my code is lower, do not use it. Use a higher discount code. I really rather you guys save extra money than use my code just to support me. Save yourself some money. That's like my key goal for this channel. It's really for a way to help you guys save money and choose the right stuff. So use whichever code gives you the highest discount. I'll have the links in the description for you guys to check out this, and of course all the different switches that I've tried, so you guys can see which switch is for you, and I'll put my favorite on number 1. Of course, check out the other videos I got, and I'll have to catch you guys next time.